Hello, 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 hello. So welcome back to another fun-filled episode with myself, Alexandra McCue. This is brought to you by the Odyssey The Platform. And we're here talking about Colourology. But in this session, we're going to be going through how Colourology can help depression and anxiety. So we're going to take a closer look at that. I'm just going to get the screen up now for everybody to see. So we've got here coping with anxiety and depression based on your color frequency. Wouldn't it be wonderful to understand what your frequencies are and know how to help either prevent or at least medicate yourself in some sort of way when it comes to dealing with depression and anxiety? Colourology, in a little nutshell here, is a fascinating and holistic approach to self-discovery. It's offering a transformative and in-depth understanding of our inner selves. It is actually derived from astrology, so ancient practices, and it combines it with numerology as well. So you've got astrology, numerology, color all together. But as you know, everything comes from astrology when it comes to these particular modalities. So it's tapping into your vibrational power, and the vibrational power is the frequency of each color. And we have 4 of them. So it's this wisdom from the Pythagorean, I can never say that, Pythagorean numerology system. And it reveals your unique frequencies. It's often regarded as a shortcut to accessing a wealth of information that we possess about ourselves, because astrology is vast and long and big, and it's been around for a long time. There's a lot to learn about it, but if you were given a shortcut into seeing who you are through this lens, it's fantastic. It's more direct. It's able to use as we discussed earlier in earlier sessions, to give you a vocabulary between here and here, which helps you look into who you are. So how does it help people with depression and anxiety? Well, Colourology opens up it's basically a self-discovery and well-being journey that you go on through color, because the frequencies give so much away in terms of how you deal with things, whether it be how you grew up and how you would have reacted to things like that. Then you've got your skill set as well. And then it also has your aspiring and your personality color. So what we're going to be doing in this session is I'm going to be teaching you how to calculate what your colors are and how to help yourself when it comes to dealing with certain things that you will face in your life that could bring about depression and anxiety. Now, for most of the colors, all of the colors, you're going to have different ways of dealing with things. So you will, let's say, for instance, a gold is going to feel different to what a red does. And when it comes to feeling low or depressed or anxious, there are different things that will happen in your environment that will cause that. But because of your certain frequency, the way that you react with it is what might bring about it for you. Sounds a little bit coded so far. So I think let's dive into it so you can see what it is that I mean. So get your pens and papers ready. So calculating your colors. The numeric day of your birth, month of your birth, and year of your birth each correspond to a different color frequency. So like I said before, you've got your 4 there. And if you look at your date of birth, this is what we use. So starting with your month, If you are to add the numbers together, let's say it was a 2 and a 3, then obviously you would get 5. If it's just a 10, get rid of the 0. If it's 11, it's a 2. So what you're doing is in each category, be it the month, the day, or the year, then you will add those figures together to become a single digit. Sometimes as we go into the year, it's going to create another double digit. So you're going to do the exact same thing again until it gets down to its single digit number. So if we've got 1975, so 1 and 9 together would be 10. So you get rid of the 0 and you keep the 1. Then you have your 7 and 5. So if you add 7 and 5 together, you get 12. 1 and 2 is 3. Then you've still got your 1 from earlier. That's 1 and 3. That's your 4. I'll show you this on the next slide as well. Just making sure that everyone can see this information. That you've worked it out so far. Okay. So this is also going to do something different now. While you have those 3 categories, remember I mentioned that there's going to be 4. So your 4th is going to be your personality color. And the way you find out your personality color is by adding all of those digits you now have together to create one single digit. And that is your personality. So going on to the next slide, you can see an example. So when you add all of them together and create your personality is pretty much what you lean on or lean into on a day-to-day basis. Interestingly, your skill set, where your month is, so your skill set will be what your month is how you actually come across to people. So though your personality is one color, how you come across to people will be within your skill set. The inner child is what your day is, and the aspiring is what your year is. So we have inner child for the day, skill set for the month, and how you come across. Then you've got aspiring for the year, and then all of them together will give you what your personality color is. It's very exciting stuff. So the difference between each category is showing you how you can do different things in different places, i.e. your skill set is going to be what you're going to use for work. It is predominantly what you're going to use when you're going to have to, say for instance, you're cleaning or you're doing something where you're going to have to use your natural abilities and skills. So you're going to have to, if you would like to, lead a more fulfilling life, look within your skill sets if you're looking for the vocation side of things to help. So say for instance, the yellow, it's more of a analytical color. So you would be looking for something that's going to stimulate the mind. You also then have your inner child color, and your inner child color, depending on your childhood, can go a few different ways, the same as all of the colors. So your childhood color is going to be a frequency that's going to fit in with everything that's gone on while you were a child. So if you were going through difficult times, then you might call on a more intense color in order to get through that. If you've got your year, the colors mean different things for what you're aspiring to do as well. So when you're aspiring to be a green, it's asking for a bit more self-care. So they mean different things. And that's, as I said, that's a very shallow explanation into some of the colors for what they do for the categories. And they aren't just standalone colors either. Together, they also mean something. So combining the colors does mean that you might, say, for instance, depending on your environment, the stresses that you go through, you might lean into one a bit more than the other one because that becomes dominant, depending on the area. So as much as we can calculate our colors now, readings help you for your unique, personalized wellness journey, because it's able to understand your own personal growth and where you've come from with the colors in order to get to where you are and how to utilize them. So that's always interesting. So if we go on to this now, it's going to explain how harnessing the therapeutic power of colors can help you. So it has a direct impact on our emotions, and it can influence our mood and mental well-being. We have no idea the impact that is actually coming from the frequency of the color that we use. It's crazy. So if we were to be around a red room, excuse me, if we were to be around a red room, then a red room is going to be very intense. It's passion. Okay. And sometimes, say for instance, you've got a lot of red in you, you're going to be bouncing off the walls, because there's, you know, you've got your red around you, and then you've got a red personality as well. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be very intense. And that is the frequency. I have this amazing device in my car right now. I've got an old car from my dad, and it's just got a CD player. Who uses CDs anymore? So I'm like, right, well, I've got to bring this into the century. How am I going to do this? And I happened to go down the market the other day, and this chap told me, I have a transmuter. I was like, what's that? show me your magic. And he said, well, what you need to do is, this is Bluetooth. So if you hook your phone up to this, then it can play your music. And I was like, yeah, but it's got no speakers, and I'm not going to listen to something, even if it had speakers, I'm not going to listen to something like that in my car. He said, no. You mistake me, madam, he said, which is beautiful. I don't think I've ever been called a madam. Well, probably in the wrong terms, but anyway, in the actual device, it doesn't only just have Bluetooth, but it sends a frequency. So you can tune into it. So yes, my phone is hooked up so I can play my songs, but now you go to your car radio and you seek the number that's on the device, and it was 87.5. So on my radio in my car, I turned to 87.5, and boom, it connected, and it started playing my songs from my phone. I couldn't believe it. But then I'm in the frequency business. So I was like, of course I can believe this. This is crazy. This is the greatest visual representation I have to show people what frequency does. We tap into frequency all the time. We don't realize it though. And colors are frequency. They're terahertz. It's a high frequency, but we don't take note. We just think it's a splash of paint here, but it also affects our moods. So if we're feeling very stressed, then generally, if you were something around like a blue room, then that can help chill you out. And you can use these specific color combinations to promote the positive emotions, because like I said earlier, if you are other colors where it's too stressful, then you know you can come away from them. So it helps you. So I'm just going to see. Yes. Okay. So this is the exciting part of the presentation. So my next few slides, I'm going to be going into each color individually to show you how to help when it comes down to preventing depression and anxiety. Sometimes we can't prevent it, okay? Sometimes it's inevitable. This earth is a very dense place. It can be very heavy in energy. And sometimes we feel that we don't have full control of our environments and the influences that are around us. But we don't realize that when we empower ourselves with such knowledge like this, that we are able to help ourselves alleviate some of the stress and pressures that we go through. So if we're looking at a red color, there's 3 key points for what a red has to go through. Red being the most intense out of all of the colors on the spectrum, from, as you said, as we saw earlier, from red all the way down to gold. We start at the red is the most intense. Why? Because if you were to look at a waveform, because it's still terahertz, so it is a frequency nonetheless, and it's measured in a waveform. The first part is going to be bunched together. So it's choppy, it's quick. And so when it comes to stress and it comes to depression, anxiety, reds can feel very knotted up, very, I call it, this is a very 21st century kind of saying, I don't know, whirring or spiraling. That's the word on the street at the moment, is spiraling. So you can spiral out of control because we're so quick. It's like a quick coil, isn't it? A tight coil. If we're not doing, and I say we because I'm a double red, if we're not doing enough physical activity, it can absolutely send us. We need to dispel this energy. We need to get it out our system. And if we don't, then it can come out in possible aggression, anxiety, depression, panic attacks. Big one is panic attacks for reds, because their breathing and their lungs, this is where the reds is as well. The breathing and the lungs are a big part of their well-being and health. So they need to be breathing right. And obviously with physical activity, something that you're pumping your cardiovascular and you're working with your body. So it's helping with your energy around your body and moving that energy. So even a healthy competition. So us reds are competitive, which I don't like to admit, but we are. And we are because we want things, we want to be the best, you know, it's the, come on, I want to do this, I want to do it now, you know? And so healthy competition does really help for a red, but making sure that it's healthy and not egoic. And even if it is down the ego route, like not so much that that becomes the clear thing that has to be done. Like it's got to be me, because that is going to give stress. That's going to give you worry. That's going to give you this, oh my gosh, I have to look at, I'm not perfect enough. I've got to do this. I've got, you know, you can imagine again, spiraling in your own mind if you're doing the competing in the wrong way. And so I would lead on to pacing yourself as well. Very impulsive, us reds, funny that. So when we're going to do things, it's got to be now. And if it hasn't grabbed my attention quick enough, then I'm going to put that down. I'm going to go on to something else. And sometimes we end up kicking ourselves because we haven't seen something through. So make sure that you pace yourself. It will help so much. So moving on to orange now. Orange. Oh, you beautiful oranges out there. Oranges are fantastic. They struggle. They struggle because they're deeply emotional people. And with deep emotion, I mean, and swallow it down there. Because orange is obviously, on, if you're looking at the chakras, is going to be on your sacral. It's going to be right on your lower stomach there. What that means is that it's usually to do around the gut. So you can overindulge. And it means that we are eating our problems away. Excuse me, I've suddenly developed a cough through all of it. So we tend to overindulge as an orange. And that can be in anything, okay? It's the overindulgence. The oranges have the ability to be in their body and to feel the physical effects. They love that. So the overindulgence can bring about obviously depression if it's in non-nutrient food or a non-nutrient rich food, and you're eating whatever it might be, sweets, chocolate and what have you, then that's not going to serve you. Maybe it possibly could be drugs as well. Then you've got noise pollution. So oranges are sensitive to noise and energy, because we always say our stomach is our second brain. And so they're very intuitive, led by their stomach. They're super sensitive to energies that are around them, especially negative ones, very strong ones as well. So noise pollution and energies, without clearing that, or at least raising your awareness to understanding that, oranges can go for a really tough time. And it can mean that they want to, they become lazy, actually. I'm not going to lie. They can become very lazy. And when they're lazy, they become sluggish. you know, and obviously a lot of that can bring about depression or anxiety, because when it comes to an orange not being able to have their freedom, being able to be creative and fluid with their movement, then it's going to create anxiety because they're not being able to serve themselves in the correct way. So it's really important. As I said, there are only 3 key things, but they're very important for an orange. And so just to give a little example, you've got the orange here. If that was all within your skill set, you could see how within a workplace, how that would help. So if you were going to go in and you didn't have the free reins to be yourself and have that freedom or creativity outlet within your workplace, and you're just there to be admin, girl, you're not going to last long. Okay. Like, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to be able to see that through. Then we have a yellow. So yellows are all to do with the mind, which is interesting because yellow, obviously being the solar plexus, is here, but nonetheless, yellow is also connected to the emotional self. So it being within the brain, these people are very emotional, but you'll keep it inside. It's all in there. Then they're not going to give much away with that, or they're going to be quite direct with things because they're very logical people. But what that does mean is that they could have quite a bit of lack of self-esteem because they're perfectionists. It needs to be right, you know. And sometimes having that lack of self-esteem, let's say, for instance, in the let's say it's within the personality, then perhaps you don't feel like you can connect with people, which then is going to keep you very more likely to be insular. So all of it is like hermiting away. Whereas yellow in its natural state, they're meant to be courageous. They're the sunshine people. It's bright. It's the same as their food and toxins. So although it's here, it's the top part of your stomach. So it's the gallbladder, it's the liver. And they can get affected by those things very easily. Those are the weakest areas for them. So food and toxins are very important to watch out for what they're consuming. Then you've got the mental stimulation. So they have to have their mental stimulation. Otherwise, there's just, again, when it comes to like the orange and the lack of creativity, if they're not able to stimulate themselves through logic or maybe projects and plans, then it's going to feel this lackluster life within themselves. They don't feel fulfilled and they're not seeing out what they should do. They're not honoring that balance within them, and that imbalance is what will cause them to feel the depression and anxiety. And we have green. So green is starting to get into the cooler parts of the spectrum of colors, because where we started out, it's very fiery, it's movement, it's, you know, it's all of the sunshine colors, isn't it? If you think about a sun rising, it's got your red, orange, and yellow. Now we're going into the green. So now it's getting a little bit calmer. But frequencies and everything else in this life, I'll say over and over again, has an up, a down, an on, an off, a left, a right. It has its opposites. So where our greens, our beautiful greens, are associated with the heart chakra, greens are going to be the color that are going to nurture you. You know, they're full of love and they lead by the heart. But it does also mean that they can be the complete opposite. So they can be very envious and jealous of people. The reason being is if they're not seeing out what they need to for themselves, then they compare, which leads on to the self-sabotage. So they compare themselves against other people, which it's going to cause this discord within yourself, because you're going to never feel like you're good enough. And keeping that to yourself, you're going to burn up inside, you know. And what they tend to do a lot of the time with the greens is they're too busy nurturing everybody else that they neglect themselves. So it's a little bit of a vicious circle for a green. They do go through a lot when it comes to that imbalance, which, you know, going through all of the colors in whatever stage of your life, you're going to feel the imbalance. You're going to feel them in the different categories. but it's knowing and it's empowering yourself through these modalities or how to help yourself and raise your awareness of when that's happened to bring you back. Now moving on, we have our blue. So our blues are, this is when we start to come up here now from the blue up to the real esoteric colors, I call them, because this, as you can imagine, an antenna person, you are going to be raising your frequency a bit more. You're going to be more connected to the other side. And this is where things start to change a little bit. So your blue, although blue is a color that's very much associated with transformation, it does also mean that they have a difficult time with change. So although it is the color of change, they do have a difficulty with change. So, and again, that leads on to your unpredictability. So if there are things that are in their surroundings, maybe their environment, that just change all of a sudden, there's no warnings, right? It flips a blue. And why would it flip a blue? Let's break it down to make it more easier. If you look into the color, the blues are chill. You know, at this point, it's just like, yeah, whatever, man. Yeah, whatever, man. Like, it's meant to be like, it's meant to be this. It's meant to be, the frequency of blue is meant to be a place where it's relaxing and it's not so stressful. But then if you bring about change, what does change do to anybody? Regardless, change is going to bring about stress, you know, on any kind of level, because it's new. We have to adapt and we have to understand. And for the blues, it can be very stressful for them. It's the same as overactivity, exerting themselves, unlike the reds, because the red's got the energy and the blue's like, nah, man. So the overactivity for the blue is when they start to feel disturbed, when they start to feel like, right, I'm ready to push back now and disappear, because that's what they do in order to cope with what they're going through. But these things are definitely what can lead to the depression side of things, or the anxiety, the anxious side of things when it comes to a blue. Then we have indigo. Okay, we're ramping it up again now. So indigos are introspective. It's about the third eye. So they are very private people. And when I say private, they will decide if they want to share something with other people. And that also then goes hand in hand with trust. They need trusting environments, workplaces, in order to feel comfortable. And if they don't, this can bring about a lot of anxiety for the indigo. And they need their space. They're big need their space. See, indigos have a lot of introspection. This is where we start going into the introspective colors, the colors where they can reflect, the colors where they've been here a few times now, where they feel everything because they're very connected, but they might not even understand that. And so they need particular things in order to help calm them down. And indigos, they need order. If indigos don't have their order around them, they're not thriving. They're likely to feel very, very stressed or very anxious. In fact, most of my friends, bless them, I love them to death, most of them have the indigo, and I can see that in all of them, that they need that safe space, that trusting safe space where they feel that they can be themselves, but not too overwhelmed by other people. And you'll see that now going on to violet as well. So violet. Now violets suffer some of the same, but violets are now even more connected to emotions, empathy, the understanding, the gray in everything. So now they really start to see things. And the same as what I was saying earlier with the green, everything has its opposite. So although the violet is there and totally empathetic of people and, you know, beautiful in natural nature, they can be very dramatic. You know, they can turn in on themselves. They can completely become a hermit and take themselves off of people. almost turning, when I say turning in on themselves, like turning on themselves. You know, I always say violet is one letter off of being violent. And I say that because I have violet within my skill set as well. And I can definitely feel the drama. And my red then edges it on like, come on, Violet, let's send it home. And I'm like, no, guys, please, I'm embarrassing myself. I'm in public. Oh, my goodness. So Violet's now being the crown chakra right at the top of the head. They need absolute faith in them, from other people, and from themselves, in their missions or what it is that they're seeing out in this lifetime. If they don't, then it can cause that imbalance, that, oh my goodness, and they can also feel very anxious. Interestingly, I would probably say that the violets are the hypochondriacs when it comes to the colors. Again, don't take everything I'm saying as like, oh, I am this one thing. No. We have the ability of all of these things, but it's just depending on your unique life of how it's turned out. And that's what you'd be able to see through a reading. So with the violets' lack of faith, it does also mean if they don't have recognition where they are, it could also send them straight off the page. They need to know that they're doing a good job because they feel it, right? They're big feelers. So work with them with that. Then we have magenta. Now, magentas. Magentas are a force to be reckoned with. I don't say that lightly. And in fact, I would use strong words, but I'm not going to use it on the internet, but I'd use strong words to explain why they're here, because it's that intensity. They have this, yes, they have two parts red. They've also got the blue. So now they have the sharpness. They've got the impulsive nature, but now they've also got the blue, which is the negotiator, the speaker, the truth in situations. So now they're just like double fierce. So I always say, like, if you've got a magenta as a personality, these guys want to be seen. That's why they're here, right? So they are impulsive, but it does also mean that they can get very frustrated and flustered at things. Like, I need to do that. It's got to be this, you know, because they have a very, they have an overview of the way that things should be run. So they can come across as a little bit bossy, but it's because they need to get it done. And they have that. They just have, if you think about where we've got to in the colors, you know, I would almost say that they're really geared up now. They've got the knowledge, they've got the insight, they've got the intuition. Now they've got the intensity. So now it's the go. Let's go. But what they tend to do with that is they tend to stress themselves out and juggle so many things. And because they're trying to spin all the plates at one time. And when that happens and it doesn't go their way, because they're not going to ask for help, let me tell you, then they could end up frustrating themselves as well. So it's really important for a magenta to make sure, while you're powerhouse in there, out there, being your entrepreneurial self, that you make sure that you take time for yourself. Same with any of the colors. When you've got that intensity, for sure, make sure that you are looking after your energy. And then your energy will look after you. Okay, and now we have our gold. So gold sits right at the top of all of the colors, and it's what we call the stellar gateway. Because this time it is incorporating all of them, as well as your absolute connection where it comes to opening up and understanding. But we're very stubborn. We are perfectionists. We do want to make sure that it's absolute before we even get it out there. And we like to look like we're put together. And I always say, and we're hot messes underneath. But we have a big connection with our mission. We are humanitarians at heart. It's just who we are. And it means that if we're not connecting with that, if we can't see out what we need to do, that's going to cause us so much stress. Because that is inherently why we've come back around as a gold personality. So goals being in different parts of the sections, so say your inner child, your skill set, and your aspirations, will mean different things. So if it's in your inner child, it could potentially mean that you were embraced with so much love because you were high frequency when you came in. Or it could also mean that you needed the higher perspective because of the difficulty that you faced as well. So you needed to cut yourself off. That's another thing that goals do as well. Then you've got overcrowded places here. As I said, goals are connected. We're so connected to so much that's going on out there that energies are like aimed guns at us. So if we're going into crowded places, we need to be sure that afterwards we are looking after ourselves well-being wise. You know, I take a lot of naps, and I am not afraid to say that. But you know, you can meditate, you can do what you need to, because we need to recharge as the goals. So same goes for food and toxins. So being the higher frequency, it does say heavy foods, they're going to weigh you down, you know? So it's got to be making the right food choices for yourself. Doesn't mean that you're perfect. No one's perfect in this world. But when it comes to choosing a regular diet that's actually going to help you in terms of nutrition, it's going to help you even more than you could even imagine, because it's going to help create a lighter body in order for your gold to shine through, because it needs that. You know, we're so susceptible, as I said, to frequency and energies. Food has its own vibration too. And so if we're putting beige food in our mouths and in our stomachs, that's not serving us either. So that's the food and that's all of the colors. Managed to get through all of the colors. And now, just going to explain the personalized approach to healing and how Colourology can help with that. So combining it all is what I've been saying through it all, is what helps you as a person find out what your wellness journey is all about. It's tailored, it's personalized. All right, we're all different people. I had this was an interesting question I got the other day. I'm going to share with you. I was with a client and they said, well, how is it twins? Answer me that one then. You know, are they going to be the exact same person? Because they've also had the exact same environment. And I'm like, how interesting. I was like, to a degree, there will be similarities. And obviously their connection is going to be quite strong. Sometimes it's going to be strong in a difficult or challenging way, or strong in a supportive way. Because if you've got strong colors and the other one's got strong colors too, then it can be a lot. Now, what I've actually got two godsons who I absolutely adore. They're twins. They're called Orion and Phoenix. How amazing is that? They're so beautiful. And how much does that link into what I'm doing as well? I can't even. Now, Orion, he is, they're both blue inner childs. So you would think, oh, okay, they're observers, so they're not going to be so intense. But Orion he's got to get stuck in with things. He's the kind of boy that will come right over to you and then come straight up to your face and look into it. And then he's going to touch this. And he's going to, like, he's here to discover. So he has an intensity with him within his colors, because they also have the violet. So their violet in their skill set has the red too. So what's happened is being birthed around a similar time, one has gone into this color more and the other has taken what balances off of that frequency wise. And that's what happens. So as I said, each color is so uniquely personalized for everybody. And what happens is I work with my spirit guides as well. So there's not this generic kind of like, oh, it's this and this. It's a lot of it, they'll be helping me paint a picture of what it was like for you within your environment and growing up, in order to help you align with your vibrational frequency and what it is that you need to be doing for yourself. And this is what obviously helps your mental health. It helps your career. It helps a number of things. It helps your relationships. And obviously what it does is it gives you empowerment. And that's what it's done for me as well. It's empowered me, because now I know myself a lot better. And now if, you know, someone's trying to come for me with something, I'm not going to be that bothered, because I know what's me and what's them, and I'll leave it at that. And it gives you that grace. So what this also does on the self-care side of things is it shows you how color being incorporated in your environment also helps. We touched on it a little bit earlier, but if you're wearing the right clothes, eating the right color food, being in the right color places, then all of these frequencies coming at you is what's going to help you feel more grounded, anchored in you, or at least, if not, you can understand why. And you can start to open your eyes to those possibilities. Be like, oh, we all do it. Anyone that's like going on this spiritual journey, we're all like, right, what planet's going backwards? I feel mental today. So with your colors, you can do the same as well, because maybe it's not even all the way up there. It's just your frequencies that are around you. Well, thank you so much for joining me in this wonderful session. It's been so good to be able to explain a little bit more about how Colourology can help, especially along the lines of depression and anxiety. We'll be coming back for more events in the future, so make sure that you stay tuned, and I will see you all then. Thank you. Bye.